Welcome to the Magnolia Shine podcast. We're talking Mississippi State versus Southern Miss week one and why this is such a fascinating matchup in week one. And it's really kind of funny to think about, right? Two teams that combined for 3 wins in 2024, 1-11 for Southern Miss, 2-10 for Mississippi State. And neither team won a conference game. Yet this becomes one of the most fascinating games in college football week one because of where both teams are at and where they want to be at the end of the season. Both teams, 6-6, would be a good season for both, no matter what the fans and the coaches want to think. 6-6 would be good for both of them because it would be, one, an improvement, and two, it would show, I guess, great improvement in the sense that they didn't just make a jump. They made a big jump when there was thought in the outer world, not maybe me, but the outer world that thinks there's no way that's possible when they put Mississippi State, especially at 3.5 wins this year. But back to this game. So let's start with Southern Miss's side first, because it's really interesting. They do not have to win this game. However, it is a must play well because they are playing one of the quote unquote lesser teams in the SEC. So for them, it's not about necessarily winning the game. It is playing well. However, I do think that they could win the game. It's only about a 2-touchdown dog. And yes, while that might seem a lot, we'll see it every single week. And a team will win that is a 2-touchdown dog or really more. So Charles Huff comes in. He brings in the whole Marshall team pretty much. So if you think to yourself, would Marshall have beaten Mississippi State last year? It's very possible. Now, I don't think they do, but I think it could have been close. Toledo did walk into Starkville and embarrass that. So, from Southern Miss, I don't think that they're going to be that 6-win team. However, they need to be competitive in these games. And that doesn't mean that they can't lose by 10 points and I walk away and go, they lost by double digits. No. They could play well and lose by double digits because, okay, let's say they're in the third quarter, they're down 3, and then Mississippi State may rip off 2 quick touchdowns, and all of a sudden the game is 17, and they score late, and they lose by 14. You're like, but Mississippi State covered. Yeah, but I watched for 2.5 quarters, and Southern Miss was in this game. I see it. And they'll be able to last 4 quarters when they play a Sun Belt team, and this is their first game under Charles Huff. It's only going to get better. However, when we look on the other side of things, and we look at Mississippi State, for them, it's a must-win. There's no doubt about it. It's just has to be a must-win. It's not a must-play well. I don't care if they play bad and they win. It is a win or a lose situation for them. And there's no way around it because if they lose in week one to Southern Miss, they're already looking for a new coach. They may not fire him. And when I say may not, they're not going to fire him after week one, and they could turn the season around, sure. But Zach Selman starts looking and getting the papers ready, and he starts calling people, and he tries to figure out who's his next coach going to be, who may get fired, who may make sense. Because there's just no way coming back from that if you're Mississippi State. We're talking about a team that went 2-10 in the record, and 0-8 in conference, and 1-7 the year before, where they're 1-15 in conference play. And I understand Southern Miss is not an SEC team, but if they're not going to beat Southern Miss, they're not going to beat Arizona State. And we're possibly looking at only 2 wins on the out-of-conference schedule, I think, at that point. And where are they going to get an SEC win? And even if they do, we're talking 3-9. So where is it? However, if they win this game, they play well, they do everything that they're supposed to do, there are 3 wins out of conference that are for sure. I know Bo Bounds, my good friend, thinks that they have to beat Arizona State. I don't think that's going to happen. However, if that does, that's 4-0. And now I think to myself, well, yeah, there is 2 SEC wins in there. If you go 4-0 out of conference and you beat Arizona State, who I think has a really good coach who will be prepared for this game, yeah, no, I do agree with you in that sense. So for Mississippi State, it has to be. I mean, it's not a must-win because their season's over, but their season's over in a different way, which is it just can't recover in that sense. And what type of pressure that must be for Mississippi State when you go into a game knowing you have to win. Because the pressure of big games, I think, are more for fans that get nervous for the game because I think these players are ready to go. I think they're ready to go. They trust what they're doing. But the pressure becomes must win. Must win. You cannot lose. You feel like you're playing an inferior team, and that would just be just in the immense pressure. So they're going to have the pressure. Southern Miss has no pressure in this game. The only pressure they have is they want to play. That's it, and that's not pressure. These kids are too good. They're too groomed. They've been recruited so highly. These kids can take it. So what a fascinating week 1 game. I think Mississippi State's going to win. I think they're actually going to win by about 10. So I think Southern Miss may cover ever so slightly, but I don't think it's out of the realm that Southern Miss could win. So interesting matchup for week 1, and I just find it so fascinating.